Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. There seems to be a misconception out there that owning NFA items means that somehow you support the ATF and the NFA and government overreach, when in fact, I think the exact opposite is true, and that's what this video today is going to be about. A lot of people seem to think that, if you buy suppressors, if you pay for tax stamps to have short-barreled rifles, then that means somehow that you agree with the unconstitutional National Firearms Act. I believe that it's literally the exact opposite, and I'm going to explain why. For one thing, a lot of people seem to think that your $200 tax stamp goes straight to the ATF, and so you are supporting the ATF by paying for a tax stamp. Well, that's not true. It's a tax just like any other tax, and it goes in the general fund. This video is brought to you by Stopbox. I'm sure you can tell by the background that I am not in the normal studio. I am traveling for the holidays. And while I always bring my concealed carry gun, it is nice to be able to bring something with just a little bit more firepower. Something a little bit more shootable, like the M&P here. And that is very easy to do with the Stopbox. It keeps it nice and safe. This thing is super durable, and nobody can get into it except for me, because I know the code. As stated in the intro, your tax stamp money does not go directly to the ATF. So if you were wondering about getting an NFA item, don't worry about that. You're not supporting the ATF by giving them your $200. In fact, it is just a tax like any other tax. You're paying it into the general fund, just like your income tax, just like sales tax, just like anything else. And so, do you make money? Do you pay income taxes? Is that somehow supporting the ATF? Well, technically, I guess because they are a government organization and they do get their money from the government, then indirectly, in some small way, yes. But the ATF has a budget, and it doesn't matter how much tax stamp money is collected. That doesn't change the ATF's budget. The ATF could care less how many tax stamps are paid for. And in fact, I'm sure they want less of them paid for, because the more tax stamp paperwork they have to go through, well, the more work they have to do. There are a lot of other reasons why owning NFA items is not supporting the ATF. For one thing is this. So if you refuse to own NFA items because you think that, you don't want to support the ATF, well, literally then you're letting the ATF and the government tell you what you can and can't own. Now, we all do this to an extent. Unless you want to just be a criminal, there's not a whole lot of ways around that. But if you want your gun to be quieter, if you want it to be shorter and still be able to have a stock on it and a vertical foregrip, well, then you do have to pay for tax stamps. And you have to get, you have to register NFA items. Do you register your cars? Or do you just drive them around illegally? Do you have a driver's license or auto insurance? Because it's kind of the same thing. Now, it's not wholly the same thing. And really, all taxation is theft. I totally agree with that. But of all of the taxes that I pay, at least for these taxes, I get something cool out of it. You know what I mean? I pay my income tax, and they send that money off to other countries to fight wars that I don't care about. Well, same thing with tax stamps. They're probably doing the same thing with that money, which is unfortunate. But at least when I pay that tax stamp, I get a suppressor, or I get an SBR out of that $200. Which I think is good. Now, I've had comments on my channel. There's one guy in particular, and I'm sure he'll comment on this video because he is a total troll. But he somehow thinks that I'm a hypocrite for owning NFA items, but also thinking that the NFA is unconstitutional. Well, the NFA is unconstitutional. But you know what? I'm not going to let the government tell me what I can and can't own. And just like registering my truck and getting license plates to be able to drive on the road without having to worry about getting pulled over and getting arrested for illegally driving on the road. Shout out to sovereign citizens out there. You know, I register my truck and I pay for auto insurance and I have a driver's license. This is kind of the same thing. And yes, it is unconstitutional, but unfortunately, it is the reality right now. Now, hopefully, someday, eventually, we will get suppressors taken off the NFA. We will get SBRs taken off the NFA. We'll get the NFA abolished, the ATF abolished. You know, we can all hope and dream, but in the same time, in the meantime, if you do want to own these things, well, then you have to jump through the legal hoops in order to be able to do so. Having a gun YouTube channel, I want to be able to show you guys the latest and greatest and the coolest stuff. Well, the coolest stuff, to me at least, is suppressed SBRs. Now, I wonder if the same people that comment on my videos comment on, Demolition Ranch, Brandon Herrera, administrative results. These guys all own NFA items, but they also all believe that the NFA is unconstitutional, as do I. That is not a hypocritical thing. You are not directly supporting the ATF by paying for tax stamps. You are paying taxes to the government, which sucks and is theft. But again, at least you get something cool for your taxes. Now, this is the other thing. If we are ever to get these things unregulated, well, a big part of that is going to be the fact that they are now in common use. And so I believe that it is your moral duty to get NFA items, to get suppressors, to register short-barreled rifles. The more of this that you do, the more we can show the numbers that these things are in common use, the easier it'll be to eventually get them deregulated. And we actually have a chance. Now, that is if our lawmakers actually, get off their ass and do something. But, with Donald Trump being the incoming president, with a Republican majority in both houses of Congress and a conservative majority in the Supreme Court right now, if the right legislation is put forward, it does have a chance of passing within the next couple of years. I think we have an incredible opportunity right now for something like that to finally happen. Now, will it finally happen? Because what seems to usually go down is that our lawmakers, introduce bills like the Hearing Protection Act when they know that they can't get passed. When we have a Democrat president that would veto it, even if it did pass both houses of Congress. But we don't seem to see them introduce that type of legislation, those type of bills, when they actually could get it passed. It's just all show to show, their demographic that, look, we're trying to do something for gun rights for you guys. So we'll see if that happens within the next couple of years. But we do have a few people in Congress still that I believe do believe in freedom and in the Second Amendment. So hopefully those guys will recognize the opportunity that we have and actually try to make something happen. Now, you can help that as well by calling your representatives, your senators, by sending them letters. There are things that we can do. It is a representative government. They're supposed to represent our interests. And if we let them know what our interests are, well, maybe they'll do their job and actually represent us. Those in positions of authority that are anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment, anti-freedom, they don't want us to own things like this. They don't want us to own short-barreled rifles. They don't want us to own suppressors. We saw that over the last couple years just with the whole pistol brace thing. They think that, that something like this is somehow more dangerous because it is concealable. Nobody's concealing this SBR. It's totally ridiculous. But that's not the point of this video. The point is that those people are against that. And so the best way to give them the middle finger is to own things like this. Now, I totally get it if it's a budgetary thing for you. If you would rather run a pistol brace than register an SBR, because to you it doesn't make sense to pay an extra $200 just to be able to put a different piece of plastic on the back of your rifle. That I totally get. If it comes down to money, sure. But if it comes down to, how you feel morally about it, I don't really think there is any difference. And in fact, I think getting more SBRs on the books does just look better for our causes, that these are not, totally weird things, that it is totally normal that people own SBRs and suppressors. And the more of that we can show when it comes down to it, the more likely we are to eventually get them deregulated, and then everyone can just go buy a suppressor off the shelf. I mean, you shouldn't even have to fill out a 4473 for a suppressor. A suppressor can't do anything dangerous. It's literally just a steel tube with baffles inside. It doesn't make your gun silent, it just makes it a little bit more pleasant to shoot. And an SBR, the length of your barrel should not matter at all. Different barrel lengths for different things. I have longer barrel lengths for guns that I want to shoot longer distances and I want to get the most velocity out of the round. I have shorter barrel lengths for more do-all things, CQB. Not that I'm doing a CQB really, but it is just nice to have short guns. They're easier to deal with. And if I'm not shooting out past 500 yards, a 10.3 inch Mark 18 is perfect for that. Now the other thing is, the way that the Second Amendment is written, what it really means, you and I, civilians, are supposed to be able to have the exact same firearms, arms, as the military. Well, the military runs suppressed SBRs. So we should totally be able to have these things too. And technically, the way that they get around the Second Amendment, and that is that we can. We just have to jump through the hoops, pay the tax stamps, get the paperwork. Well, I think these things, we shouldn't have to do that. But currently we do. And if you want to own these things, that is what you got to do. Just the same as if you want to be able to drive on our roads legally, you got to get a driver's license, register, and insure your vehicle. It's really no different. So I believe that it is your civic and your moral duty to get NFA items. I mean, not really. If you don't want them, you do you. But you know what? You are actually wrong when you're telling people that do own NFA items that they are somehow supporting tyranny and the ATF. In fact, it's just the opposite. If you are, morally opposed to getting NFA items, well, then you're basically letting the government tell you that you can't have what you want. And I promise you, you do want it. Suppressors, SBRs are awesome. And to me, it's worth $200. I'd much rather not pay $200 to get these. That would be much better. I'd much rather not be put on a list and have to send them fingerprints and everything else to get these. But unfortunately, that is the reality right now. And until it changes, I will continue to get NFA items. Just like all of your other favorite gun tubers, they are against the NFA as well. But you know what? I mean, Brandon Herrera can't do videos about machine guns without having an SOT, or whoever it is can't do videos about suppressors without getting tax stamps. It is the unfortunate reality. And so it's a reality that I deal with because I live in the real world. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Make sure you subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical. And let me know down in the comments what you think about this, because I am sure I'm going to get many comments that disagree with me and some that do agree. And that is totally fine. From Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.